Now, Justice Binta in today officially recused herself from the case of Nnamdi Kanu. I am sure that you're wondering precisely what happened. Well, he was scheduled to appear in court today, and we will say that we're not surprised that Nnamdi Kanu decided to defend himself, regardless of the fact that he had a legal counsel to defend him. So here is what transpired in court today. While they were in court, Nnamdi Kanu was actually angry. He wasn't happy. He expressed his discomfort. According to him, he feels that Justice Binta has refused to obey court order. From his own perspective, I'm sure we may be able to reason with him. He says that he believes and understands the DSS if they refuse to obey court order, because that has always been their tradition. But for Justice Binta who he believes exactly is the fact that she's a federal high court judge, she was supposed to obey court orders, and she did not do so. So he said, please, I am uncomfortable, I am dissatisfied with you presiding over this case continuously, and you're refusing to obey the Supreme Court order. Please kindly recuse yourself. And hey, Justice Binta said, okay, well, my hand don't come out, so I know that is what will make this case proceed further or be accelerated, and we all get the desired result. Now, if you recall the last time, right, the court had actually advised Nnamdi Kanu and the federal government to seek a political resolution. The idea is the federal government, that is the prosecutor, and Nnamdi Kanu's legal team come to an agreement. If there are conditions that needs to be met, just like the leader of who was actually accused of treasonable felony charges, and he was eventually released, then of course, if that kind of middle ground can be met, then the same thing can actually take place in the case of Nnamdi Kanu and the federal government. So we're thinking that in court today, we would hear the prosecutor and Nnamdi Kanu's legal counsel say, we have come to an impasse, right? We have decided that this is what we want to do. But that was not the case. And Nnamdi Kanu decided to take over the case in court today. So he expressed his dissatisfaction with Justice Binta and she recused herself. Guess what? While he was trying to defend himself, his lawyer was like, Nnamdi Kanu, like, let me do what I'm here to do. And he said, sit down, like, allow me to do, let me talk. I'm obviously not happy with how long this case have dragged. For 4 years, this man has been in the DSS custody, and basically that was part of the theatrics or the drama that took place in court. Now, I want to be specific with some of the things Nnamdi Kanu said or what he referenced to. Nnamdi Kanu referenced a Supreme Court ruling that questioned the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court concerning the alleged broadcast that forms the basis of his charges. There are allegations that Nnamdi Kanu broadcasted on a social media platform, making quite a lot of treasonable comments against the federal government of Nigeria. They stated that he was trying to incite the people to, eschew violence and all forms of anomalies that are quite undemocratic. So he's asking the court to present the proof of most of those things they consider to be treasonable, that is based on the charges against him. Now, Kanu, has been embroiled in legal trouble since his rearrest in Kenya in 2021, following his earlier flight from bail conditions set by the court. Now, we're thinking this time around the case will be different because we have a new DSS DG. The previous DG was one responsible for apprehending Nnamdi Kanu, or rather kidnapping him, based on how the process and the conduct was carried out in 2021. And since then, we've not had any recourse. There have been no resolution so far. Now, there's a new DSS head. We're expecting that the normal tradition, which the DSS is known for, maybe there'll be a sanitization within that sector or within that department for the DSS to begin to learn to obey court order. Well, that's as it stands right now based on what transpired in court today, because Nnamdi Kanu addressed the press, and he is to remain in custody of the Department of State Services, awaiting further development on the case. Now, he currently faces terrorism charges, but he has pleaded not guilty to the charges from the federal government. Despite his pleas, Justice Nyako has denied him bail, citing his previous failure to comply with bail conditions. Now, a couple of analysts or political analysts of the notion that there is something underhand at play here. Sunday Igboho, one person too, who they had accused of committing treason. Well, although some people will say his case was not officially tried in Nigeria, but somehow silently that man was released. There was an impasse that was reached. There was an agreement that was reached. Others also believe that the Miyete Kautau Haure leader, who actually had non-state actors, all right, within his reach, and they were well armed. He was slammed with treasonable felony charges and he was released. We don't even know how or what kind of conditions were set. We just heard that he was released. We were all surprised when he was released. That means there were conditions that were met and there were some conditions that he agreed to. Now, what exactly is stopping the federal government from coming to an impasse with Nnamdi Kanu? Why precisely has he been in the DSS custody for 4 years, despite several pleas from several organizations writing to the Nigerian government to consider a way through which he can either be granted bail for him to continue to attend his case in court? Now, Justice Binta is citing that due to the fact that Nnamdi Kanu earlier escaped bail, there is a tendency the same thing will happen. Now, let me take your mind down memory lane. Nnamdi Kanu, at one point, when the case was still in court and he was within the country, there was a time the Nigerian army invaded his house. They invaded his home. They killed some members of his family. Then they even killed his father. We saw blood in the compound. He's escaped by the whiskers. If Nnamdi Kanu had not escaped that day, he would have been dead. I don't think we would have had any trial going on now. So on that premise, Nnamdi Kanu kept insisting that he did not escape, as they're alleging. He literally tried to save himself, and that was why he left. If he had stayed, then they would not be prosecuting him in court. So according to him, he pleaded self-defense because the manner with which the security operatives stormed his residence at the time was malicious and it had an intent. The intent was to kill him, which he escaped from. That's basically his defense. So the question now is, what exactly is going on with Nnamdi Kanu's case that up till now there is no resolution to the matter? Why can he not be granted bail? What are the charges presented and what evidence do they have? If they have all this evidence and they cannot come to a condition that can be signed by him, that he'll be available whenever he needs to be presented in court, then what precisely is the issue? Analysts believe that this whole thing is politically motivated. There are certain persons and there are certain elements who actually want him to remain in the DSS custody. Others believe that the escalating tension and security challenges in the southeast is as a result of Nnamdi Kanu's incarceration, and they feel that if he is released, there will be some sense of normalcy in the southeast. But is that what will happen? If at all Nnamdi Kanu is released and there's a sense of normalcy restored in the southeast, are we saying that within the DSS custody, Nnamdi Kanu has been controlling elements that are perpetrating injustice and killing people and all whatnot of forms of activities in the southeast? Because that's basically how a lot of persons will interpret it. So again, the question is, what is going on with the federal government having to handle this case as fast as possible? Whatever motivation is there, the Igbo leaders, the Southeastern leaders, the British government, Nigerians in diaspora, veterans in the military, they have all written, even the Southeast governors and some ministers, National Assembly members, House of Rep members, have actually written to the president via the Attorney General of the Federation to see how they can look for a resolution for his release. And none of that is happening. So far, at this moment, undisclosed, he's still within the DSS custody, pending further directives. So far, we do not know where his case is to lead to. We don't even know when next his case is adjourned, possibly anytime soon. But why the delay though? If indeed the federal government has no ulterior motive as to his continuous incarceration, why are they delaying on this case? If the court can expedite action in 24 hours, if the ESCC or the DSS wants to get an arrest warrant in somebody's house in 24 hours and they're able to get a response too in the same 24 hours, can you remember the whole Kanu imbroglio? How the different emirs were getting court warrants in 24 hours just because they had the means through which they could pull the hands of the judicial system. Why has this taken 4 years to resolve? It's a very big question, and the federal government needs to respond to this as soon as possible. So in his case, we're looking forward to seeing something tangible take place very soon. Now, Oji Uzo Kalu has actually met with the president, complaining that the hardship is real. 2 days ago, he complained that he can no longer use his private jets to fly anywhere because he cannot afford to buy Jet A1. That is the fuel for planes or private jets. According to him, he cannot meet up with it, so he had to rent it out or sell it off because he cannot continue to maintain the maintenance of the jet, that's a private jet, as well as buy Jet A1. So he went to meet the president to say, Omo, Nigerians, they suffer. The suffering, it don't reach here. Oh, chuk gong, like it is hurting everybody. What do you want to do about it, Mr. President? We love you, we like you, but the reality is that the hardship no get hierarchy. Everybody, they feel the levels. What are you gonna do? We're waiting for President Tinubu to tell him more, because we're thinking that the waivers on import duty and food would have been implemented by now. So if we see Gary chop, even if you know if you buy meat, unfortunately, that's not the case. Right now, different Tory up and down, from presidency to CBN, federal government, Senate. October 1 is coming, and they say na fearless protest. Some people may not come out because they will slam you with treasonable felony. In fact, that's the hashtag. If you say anti-Tinubu, treasonable felony. I no agree, treasonable felony. Omo, they have adulterated the effectiveness of the word treason in this country. Now here we do. Anyway, subscribe to Estic Media, ESTIQMEDIA. Bye for now.